Welcome to Inspiring Possible. I'm Christy Pennison, former stuck person turned therapist and dream consultant. Are you feeling stuck, overwhelmed, uncertain, or just need a little inspiration? Then I want to help you gain the clarity, confidence, and courage to create possibilities and live a life you love. Because, folks, life's too short to be miserable. Welcome back, Inspiring Possible people. It's so good to have you here. So, I have an interesting guest today, which all of our guests are super cool and interesting, but I think this is fascinating to me. Can you imagine living out of your suitcase for about 300 days a year? Just think about that, okay? No matter where you're listening at, you may think, okay, well, Christy, I actually probably live at my house or home probably almost 365 days a year unless I'm taking a vacation. So if this sounds crazy to you, just listen because this is going to be hopefully something that inspires you. Because I know for me, many a times I think about the way that I live life based off what's around me and maybe how I was raised, where in the world I was dropped off at. It really informed a lot of my lifestyle choices. But imagine actually traveling to places all around the world and being able to not only write about those experiences, but also photograph them and also, I guess, video them and things of that nature, and really be able to tell the stories of the people and things that you encounter. So if that sounds cool, keep listening because I have a special guest today who is actually graciously giving of their time at 1 o'clock in the morning, where they're at in the world when we're recording this, from Singapore. And I'm excited to welcome Ian Poh Jin Tze to the show. Did I do okay?
Yep. Good. Yep, that's right. Good afternoon, Christy, or good morning in my case.
Yeah.
Yes, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on. So I just am curious, did you grow up traveling or how did this become a thing for you?
Well, basically, I mean, no one ever goes out traveling, but at some point they dream of traveling, that's for sure. Well, in my case, I'd say it started off maybe about close to 16 to 20 years ago. And that's kind of where my career kicked off and headed in that direction. So travels kind of started off in Southeast Asia, and then it drifted towards the Pacific, and now it's somewhat global. So I'd say that travel, yeah, it started off as a passion, you have that fire in you that sort of ignites each time you see an airplane or when you're standing even in the queue. You sort of feel that passion. But the problem with traveling, I'd say about 300 days a year, is that at some point in time, that sort of the sense of jaded, being jaded kicks in, and
Mhm.
it becomes a lot of artificial lighting, a lot of lounge food, and you start asking yourself like, why am I here again?
So
Those sort of
what once was a
questions.
dream then becomes like, "Oh my gosh, this was something I dreamed about doing for so many years, and now I'm doing it." But, like,
Yeah,
maybe lounge food is overrated.
yeah, pretty much so. Yes, and I just had sort of like a flight. I'd say one of the last few flights I just had, whereby my luggage was pretty much left in a hotel room in Singapore. So I flew in from India, and I had a maybe about 6 hour layover, swapped luggages at the airport, and took off again to China. So
Yeah, wow.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. What has traveling, because some of our listeners, they honestly maybe have never traveled outside of either their community, their country, wherever they're listening. What has traveling taught you about life or people?
I'd say that traveling in relations to life or people, traveling not so, but it's more the whole experience of the cultures, the people that you meet whilst traveling. So, like for example, when I was in Malaysia, and I'll use that pandemic sort of example to so that's relatable to a lot of people. So, for example, when I was in Malaysia during the pandemic, and it was chaos. It was absolute chaos back then because it was like the apocalypse happening. And I still remember I landed in Malaysia, and everybody heard of this. Back then they called it the Wuhan virus, right? And everyone was saying that, oh, you might die, you might turn into a zombie or something. And I was like, yeah, right. And the first thing I thought of was, okay, let's sort of try to fill up with essentials, right? So loaded up with all the toilet paper and all that. And back then I was staying in
So you're
that
telling me
service apartment.
toilet paper pandemic was happening in Malaysia too, right? Like,
Yes, I
that
think
was a
it
real
was a
thing.
global pandemic when it comes to that toilet paper pandemic. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so once I loaded up on all of that, and the guys at the service apartment said, they sat me down and they said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, essentials. That's a very subjective term." And they said, "Yeah, I can see that from the wagyu beef and the bottle of wine you've got going there." And then they were like, "I believe essential means instant noodles and some flour and whatnot." And that's how I got to know them. And I'd say that, the reason why I sort of wrote about them, or the reason why I look forward to traveling, is meeting these sort of people. And what do I mean by these sort of people? I mean that people who actually care, because I've gone to many, 5-star, 7-star hotels. You stroll right in and they'll be like, "Yep, good afternoon, Mr. Poe. How are you today?" And before you can even answer, or before you're even done with answering, they'll jump on to the next question. And you sort of get the feeling that it all came off a script. Whereas the experience I got in Malaysia was, you sat down, you sort of shared your deeper secrets with them. You shared gossip with them. And that's the kind of thing that I'd say brings travel to life, or the kind of people like you meet when you're sitting in a sports bar waiting for a flight or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I could probably echo that. I do not live out of my suitcase as many days as you, right? My
Yep.
life looks a little different, but, every time that I do get an opportunity to travel, whether it
Mhm,
be for something related to work, whether it be for an adventure, because I like to hike and adventure and do those kind of things. I've
mhm.
always the best part of it is not always the place that I'm getting to visit, although it is amazing to see the different beautiful parts of the world that you may
Yep.
not get to see every day. But
Mhm.
the really fun side about it is that the people you get to meet,
Yep.
and when you take the time to just kind of sit somewhere for a minute, or, be able to open yourself up to conversations with people that again, maybe live in a completely different, I'm saying world, but like their way of living is so different from you. You really can start to learn. And it sounds like in that situation, value, like, oh,
Yep.
this is so nice. Human connection, somebody actually caring about, you know, my
Yep.
perspective and not just kind of like going through the script, as you said.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, it's always great. It's always cool to see be able to meet people along the way. Well, let me ask you this. How did you get into more of the creative side of things with your photography? And I also know you have I don't know if it's came out yet, but you have like a coffee table book as well. Has that
Oh yeah. Yeah.
came out?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 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 There's two of them
So,
actually.
okay, awesome. So how
Yeah.
did you kind of get into photography, cinematography? See, did I say it right? My
Yep.
brain.
Yep. You got
It's not
it.
working. Okay. And then I know, so you also do some journalism. How did
Yeah.
you get into that? Because I know that's not, we were talking before we push record, that's
Mhm.
not your day job. That's your like
Yeah.
passion, right?
That's right.
Would you say that? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. I mean, since I was a child, I mean, there's always been a quiet pull towards storytelling in my life, and though both writing and photography, but I'd say that ever since when I was young, it was never really given an opportunity to sort of bloom in many sense because I mean it sort of lived in the background. It's always softened by like for example the sports, or it's always like like back then I was into drama and a bit of stage here and there, and then
Okay,
but
you were
on
a
the other
drama
hand,
kid?
yeah, in
Yeah,
a
okay.
way, I was in it
Okay.
for the chicks to a certain extent.
Oh, okay, okay. Did
I mean,
that work,
weren't we all?
Ian? Did that work
uh,
for you?
not not really. Yeah. So but on the other hand, it has never really left me. So it's always been there subtly through the generations of ever since the nostalgic Nokia's, where it started off with no phones at all, or no cameras
Yeah.
at all. And then the cameras went from, I don't know, 30 megapixel to now it's sporting like 100 megabytes on the I would say like the latest Leica that just came out. So I mean, it's
Mhm.
always been in that background. And then maybe about, say, in the last decade or so, things probably changed when it happened one Christmas. My mom just sort of dropped the Leica camera in my hands, and she said, "You know what? You seem to have a passion in this, so why not try it on a professional scale?" And I said, "Yeah,
Wow,
sure,
thank
why
you,
not?"
mom.
Yeah, yeah. In many ways, yes. And I'd
Mhm.
say that really was a life-changing moment for me, because when I saw the images that really came out of a proper DSLR, it's not grainy, and that sort of started to push the creativity that in my photography, I'd say. And that's when I realized that photography is not just about sort of like preserving a moment. It's more of like it's supposed to evoke senses in that moment and sort of preserve it, pull the viewers into that moment and let them feel what I was feeling. And so to me, that's why if you sort of see my works when it comes to photography and videography, it does not lean towards just the perfect picture or the perfect video, or in many cases nowadays, I mean, I see all those TikTokers and influencers doing 5 seconds B-rolls and all that. I don't really go for that, but it's more to tell a story, and not just
Mhm.
my story, but the story of someone else but through my perspective, through my lens, and through my pen. So that's pretty much
Yeah,
how it started off. Yeah.
that's cool. It's actually part of my family, we used to really back in the day before, right, these things came out, we
Yeah.
would go and take aspirational photos, and I'd get the really nice cameras, and I still, I would
Yeah.
try to tell the story in my best way, and I did love it because I love capturing that moment, and maybe more for my memory because I have a little bit of short-term memory loss. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I wanna remember this later, so that I can be like, "Yeah, I was there. Yeah, that was cool. That was a fun experience." But, it is cool to look back on some of those stories that even were captured and trying to get the image just in a way that conveyed a certain thought or feeling. But by any means, I was a very novice.
Hmm.
Okay, so let me say novice, alright? So I appreciate
Yeah.
people that can really tell a story at a lot more advanced level than me, but I am curious, what is the favoritist, that's a word,
Yeah.
your most favorite
Yeah.
story that you've
Hmm.
ever been able to tell through either photography or videography?
Well, tricky question there, because it really depends on the mood I'm in, I'd say.
Okay,
So,
depends
I
on what
mean,
day it is.
yeah, very much so. I mean, so if you ask me favorite, I've got a few. So, I mean,
Okay.
it takes me back to meaningful times, and it also takes me back to thought evoking times. So, if you're talking about meaningful, then I would say that it goes back once again to my very first coffee table book, where in that book I sort of featured 5 different short stories of people and their lives during the pandemic, or lives which are not that visible to the any ordinary person's eye, like those in agriculture, those in hospitality. And for me, why that would be my favorite would be because even though, if you look at it from afar and you say, "Oh, I'm a durian farmer," and they'll be like, that's a very nice fruit, unique fruit there." And then people start talking about the smells, how pungent it smells, but it tastes like heaven, that sort of stuff. But they're forgetting about farmer. The durian creates an
Yeah.
impact, farmer is lost on them. So that's where I come in, and I sort of bring the last bit to life and sort of put a spotlight on their lives and tell people that, hey, yeah, the durian did not appear on the table by itself. You know, sort of these are the unsung heroes that kind of sort of risk life and limb for you. So and
Yeah.
for me, yeah, that really sort of resounded with me. So that'd be one of my favorites. The next favorite for me would be, I would say, it takes me to the dusty streets of a particular country. So when I say particular country, I know you'd be like raising an eyebrow at me. So why all the cloak and dagger? But that's because that's going to be related to the next book that I sort of released this year.
Okay, so y'all gotta stay
Yeah.
tuned and check it out, what particular country he's talking about.
Yeah, yeah. But in many ways, just to give you a hint, that country would sort of bring you back about 3,000 years, and just standing there and being in that moment. I mean, yeah, I had someone ask me the question, "What do you feel or what do you do before you take a photo?" Well, in that case, when I was standing in that moment, I did not feel nor do anything. I just stood there and imagined 3,000 years of culture and history right in front of me, And the only thing that could go through my mind was not, let's pick up the camera and snap it, but it's more like, let's live in this moment and remember how it feels like. Because I mean, whatever it is that's in front of me, it's been there for 3,000 years. It's not going anywhere
Yeah,
else. So,
wild.
you know, yeah. But
It's wild
but
when
but
you
some
really think
people,
about it and
yeah,
allow yourself to be there,
exactly.
like, you're like, "Yeah, this is gonna be here way after me, it was here before
Yeah,
me," yeah.
yeah, yeah. But like nowadays, you have all the millennials. They'll be like, I need to get a perfect selfie. I need to get that angle, and I'm like, no, not quite. So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
but it is crazy when you do think about, and I guess you've experienced this a lot as you are traveling and capturing things, but the
mm-hmm.
reality is that, yeah, there's maybe somebody that stood here so many times before me
Yeah,
in different
yeah.
points of time. I just happen
Mm-hmm.
to be here right now. And it sounds like for you,
Exactly.
sometimes it's not always the thinking or the feeling, it's just the being present and
Yeah,
witnessing the moment or allowing your imagination to kind of help you maybe think of what it would have been like to be here 3,000 years ago, you know?
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Yeah.
3,000 years ago, you really wouldn't have been able to get on a plane and go over there, you know? I mean, that's the reality.
Not
It would have
really.
taken a long journey, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, and that's crazy to think about if you really go there. I always think sometimes when I get in an airplane, I'm like, "This is wild." I don't care how many airplanes I've ridden in. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can get in this and go to a different part of the world
Yeah.
within, sometimes it's hours, sometimes it's days. But
Yeah.
seriously, even 100 years ago, that would not have been possible. It would have taken
Yeah.
a lot longer. And so it's
Yeah.
really, really wild to think about that. Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, one of the tabloids did approach me earlier. I would say early last year, and they said, "Ian, could you sort of do a particular article for us?" And I said, "What that be?" And they said, "Could you live on an airplane for 24 hours and have the sunlight chase you all the way from New Zealand straight back down to the United States?" And I said, "Wow, yeah, you've got my attention." So I mean,
Yeah. So
you
did you write it?
no, unfortunately, because I had another assignment back then. But if ever that opportunity did present itself again, I would definitely do it.
Yeah. Like you want me to be on a plane and write my experience?
Yeah,
That's crazy. But you
yeah,
could,
yeah,
really.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
I've never thought about that. You're either
yeah,
chasing the sun, or the sun's chasing you, one of the
yeah.
two.
That's right.
Okay. What has been the craziest experience that you've had during your
Mm.
travels? Like, one that's just like, "I can't believe this is happening."
Well, I'd say, that would take me to a mountain top, or at least the edge of a mountain, in Burma. Because so you'd be asking, why are you and oh, what are you doing in Burma? So basically, I was there on another assignment, right? And my client said, Ian, could you wake up early in the morning, slightly earlier, and we're gonna get on a plane. And I said, yeah, cool. So it being Burma, so my expectations were already set. So I said, yeah, okay, plane. This could be a seaplane or one of those propeller planes. It's all good with me. So, and he said
Could be a
earlier.
plane
So
you're
I
hanging
guess,
on to for dear
yeah,
life, like, will
yeah,
we make it?
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I know, right? So after that, when he said a bit earlier, I said, yeah, maybe about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Yeah, 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 I can do that. And he said, okay, so I'll see you at 3. I was like, oh no, wait, hang on, 3 in the afternoon? And he was like, no, 3 in the morning. I was like, that's night, yeah? That's not morning. But okay, yeah, why not now? So I met him at 3 in the morning and waited on the tarmac for the plane, and she said, "Yep, let's go." And I was like, "What do you mean by what? Yep, let's go." The plane that's sitting there is the kind you'd see on, back in high school. I don't know whether you know this cartoon Chip and Dale, and
Yeah, I
you
remember Chip and Dale.
yeah,
Yeah, I used to watch
exactly.
that.
Exactly, and you know the plane that bear flies. It's got chickens clucking behind and ducks and whatnot, and that's exactly what I had. And I grabbed onto the safety belt like you said just now. The only difference was that the whole belt was in both hands, and it kind of flew off. And I was like, okay, that's no good. But and, and, and exactly, and I said,
Wasn't
okay,
funny at the time, but I can just picture you
yeah,
because I have been to places in Africa before where I'm, like, in the back of a truck with a cow strapped to the
yeah,
bottom, and then we got the other
yeah,
animals, and so I'm picturing this plane right now with the chickens right here
exactly.
and the thing you grab and it falls off. It's not working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's the kind of plane where by to sort of land, they'll cut off the engine and it'll just glide in by itself. That sort of stuff. And you think you've seen it all until you're on that plane. So, and then if that wasn't bad enough, and then so we hopped into a van upon arrival, and sort of we got to the hotel, and I said, okay, good, we're here. And he says, no. So we're here. We're going to leave at about 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Hope you're all right with it. Slightly later. So I said, okay, yeah, it's all good. So at 5 in the morning, I got up and, it was very zen. You got monks with the little, baskets on their head. They're walking around. There's horses everywhere. And I'm like, okay, this is really, really zen. And then along comes my client and he says, yep, let's go again. And I said, oh, I said, "No, wait, hang on. Um, where's the van?" And then I was sort of looking at it. I was like, "Horse, human, horse, human. No, 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 no." I said, "That cannot be the so-called van. That's a horse." And he was like, "Yeah, it's okay. We're gonna ride the horse for a short period because we're gonna go up a mountain and come down the other side. So the van won't fit." And so I thought, okay, he said a short while, right? So yeah, what, 1 hour, 2 hours, max 3. Yeah, I can do that. So, I got on the horse or more of a donkey. And then, it's like you're in a rock concert. Your head's just doing this all the time. And then, and, and 3 hours went by, 5 hours went by. And I said, hey, wait, hang on. You said a while, and I gave it 2 hours more than a while. So we're 5 hours in. I'm still bobbing my head around like a bobblehead. I said, how long more is this going to be? And he said, no, no, just one more. We're almost there. And at this point, the horse is, his feet are like traction control that's gone wrong. And you can feel the rocks at the edge of the mountain sort of sliding down. And I'm like, okay, that's no good. So I said, yeah, exactly how long? I mean, like what, 2 hours, 3 hours more? And he said, no, 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 it's just a while. You just got another about 6, 7 hours to go. I said, you gotta be kidding me. And so I'd say that would have been my most memorable sort of experience. And to many cases, it's very much like being, I'd say Schumacher or being a F1 driver, because when I now think back, the closer you are to death, it's like the more alive I felt. So
Yeah.
it's just surreal. I mean, some people say you got a death wish, and I'm like, yeah, that's about it.
It sounds like you're just an adventurer, and I don't know about you, but I know any type of, thing that I embark on, sometimes, and I think different cultures, like yeah, to this person, it was like 2 hours, but 2 hours really means culturally 10, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But if
yeah,
you but you're like, "Okay, I'm just like, this is direct. You said 2, we should be
yeah,
there in 2," because I don't,
exactly.
yeah. Western culture especially, it's like, "Okay, what does the time say? We got 5 minutes left,"
Yep, yep.
But it's those times that you said, like, even that experience for you is something that will always stick with you, like, you know, as one of the most memorable, craziest experiences that you've had,
Yep,
so it's wild.
yep,
Well,
exactly.
okay, if somebody's listening and
Yeah.
they don't really get opportunities for travel, or maybe
Mhm,
they're just fearful of like maybe going to different places and they're just not sure. What would you say is the biggest, even though now I know you're like, "Ooh, can I just be in one place for a little bit?"
yep, yep.
But for those who maybe not experienced travel or even travel into that extent where they're like, "Okay, the opposite would feel real good right now." What would you say to people that are on the fence about what traveling has helped you do? Like, is there anything you think it's been a gift it's given you from, like, whether it be seeing different cultures,
Mhm,
experiencing different adventures, or what do you think the
mhm.
biggest gift to travel has been?
I'd say the biggest gift would be to understand the culture and sort of immerse yourself in that country. And
Mm,
every country gives you different experiences, not just the country alone. I mean, I could go to Sri Lanka 10 times and I get 10 different experiences. So and that really is the gift, if you ask me, because, like, for example, just I'd say a month ago I was in Sri Lanka, and I was doing a bit of a flood relief for those affected by floods, and it was the worst that they had in 2 decades. So
mm.
I sat down and sort of had a chat with some of those affected, whilst handing out some food and clothes to them. And you see how simple their lives are, and despite it being simple, most importantly, they're happy, and they're amongst loved ones. And to me, just being able to witness that is more than enough, and being able to sort of freeze that moment in time. And when I sort of blow it up, sort of print the picture up and blow it up and give it to them, the smiles on their faces, that is the moment you really live for as a photographer, knowing that your piece of art is really and truly appreciated. I mean, it may not be monetary, but it's genuine. It's gold, if you ask me. So
Yeah.
so yeah, that
Yeah.
would
Well,
be it.
and
Yeah.
I'm even hearing this, and you can tell me if this is correct or not, but it's almost too, I can imagine getting to witness those experiences do maybe also would help you figure out, okay, what is most important to me, especially
Hmm.
when things always seem not as simple in life, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, maybe actually this is what it is, and I'm
Yeah.
overcomplicated and over here with all these things. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. It is. And it's cool to be able to witness people in any part of their journey and then being able to give them a gift that really resonates with them that really,
Yeah.
money can't necessarily buy, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what is one of your hopes that you like, and you may not have an intention when you do your photography or
Hmm.
you are taking the videos and things like that.
Yeah.
But what is your hope as a photographer, journalist, creative person that you
Hmm.
would hope that your work would do for others?
In many ways, I hope it evokes feelings and emotions, like what I mentioned earlier. I hope that, sometimes you look at a photograph, right? You go to a gallery, look at it. It's beautiful. It is, but it doesn't really, I don't find it relatable, or it's just, it doesn't resonate with me, sort of. So what I do hope is sort of like, when someone looks at the photographer, at the photograph, or when someone sort of views the video, and they sort of it sort of makes them stop and think, either number one, how they're able to relate to it on a personal level, or number two, how it evokes emotions, to be able to feel what the people in that video or photo are feeling. I think that for me, that would be my biggest hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, that might bring me to my next question. If people are like,
Mm.
Christy, you and Ian are talking all about these, books that he has, or photos that he takes, or videos that he creates, or things that he writes, where could people find out a little bit more about the things that you do create and put out into the world?
Well, if you're talking about photographs, and little sort of snippets of videos, you'll be able to find that on Instagram. So Instagram, I usually have it on two handles. One is through my Leica, but the E in the Leica is a tree. And for longer form, sort of storytelling and cinematography, it would be monkey see and do, and E once again is a tree there. So yeah, and the rest of it will be on YouTube as well, under Monkey See and Do. So yeah, that'll be it.
Okay, well, we'll definitely link that up. And then I also know that we'll link up to your website that kind of has where people can kind of purchase some of your books if they're interested in
Hmm.
that and kind of can view a little bit more of your work there too.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. Well, Ian, look, I like to ask a lot of my guests a final question, and I'm just curious what your thought would be. If you could go back to younger Ian and give yourself either a word of wisdom, a piece of advice, something that you would want to tell younger
Yeah,
you at any stage of your life,
yeah,
what's one
yeah.
thing that you might would want to tell yourself today? If you
Pick
could
up
like
the
go back and
camera.
talk to you say pick up the
Yeah,
camera?
it'll be pick up the camera 100%. Because yeah, my biggest regret, hands down, without having to think, would be not picking up a DSLR earlier. And in my younger days, like I said, I used mobile phones and all that. And now when I look back at the places I've been, Afghanistan, um, Israel, all these places, Jordan, Petra. I mean, I wish I had a DSLR with me because now I'm unable to sort of blow up those photos that I had. And so if you ask me, my message to myself would be, it doesn't matter what camera. It could be a Hasselblad, it could be a Leica, it could even be a Sony. Doesn't matter, just pick it up.
Yeah, pick it up and take those
Yeah,
pictures. Well, and you think about it because
exactly.
if we don't, then all we have it is in our memory, or like you said, even if it's like on a mobile phone or something, the quality is
Yeah,
just not one that you can really replicate. I mean, I know AI is getting
exactly.
really good and probably
Yeah.
can like really help with that pixelation and stuff
Mm.
like that. But I guess what I'm hearing
Yeah,
you
yeah,
say is that pick up the camera. And you know what? I think it's interesting because we all have different, I guess, things that are interesting to us or stuff that we wanna pursue, and I think for anybody listening, it's there's sometimes when you do find passions that you just love, then it's like, "Man, I wish I would've started this sooner." So, if you're listening, there goes your word of advice too from Ian is like, don't wait if it's something that you really think that is something you should do. Pick it up and just try it. I mean, because I'm sure
yep.
when you first started taking photos, I mean, were you expert level, just taking pictures that were just incredible to start?
I'd say that, I mean, in my
May have
opinion,
been. You may have been a prodigy, Ian. You may be a
yeah,
prodigy, but I'm just, I'm
yeah,
sure they've gotten
yeah.
better over time. I don't know.
I
Have
mean,
they?
for me, I feel that even up to now, I'm no expert, to be honest. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, when I first started out, it was just all about just freezing the moment, really, so that I can revisit it, whether it being months down the road or years down the road. But you know, after some time, and especially when you've been to that particular country or spot before, then dies the whole novelty of, yep, let me get that perfect picture of the whether it be the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, or it suddenly turns into, let's try to get it at dawn or dusk. And then it then turns into, yep, I want to get that shadow, that sort of hue in the sun. And so the whole perspective and the whole, purpose of being there suddenly changes. So
Mm,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's true. So capture that moment, and then you can always
Yeah,
recapture a different version of it later, is what I'm hearing you say.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Well, Ian, I appreciate you taking your time, especially talking about so early in the morning to just kind of maybe share your experiences with our listeners, and for you picking up that camera at some point, right? Like you still did
Yeah.
get that camera. Maybe it been the one that your mom gave you and like said, here, make it happen. But
Yeah.
then, a lot of people could stop there. They could stop with just taking their photos, but yeah, I guess you've taken it a step further to say, how can I share this with others in the world?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
be able to also share my experiences through even coming on today. So I just want to acknowledge you for that and for also continuing to pursue your passions because there's a quote, and I'm going to not say it correctly, but it's pretty much the quote that they say, like, that the world just needs more people that come alive. Like, so whatever it is that makes them come alive, that they are being able to do those things. And whether it be the people, like you said, in Sri Lanka, where you're sitting and
Yeah.
they're probably facing devastation, they may have lost
Mhm.
everything that they had,
Yeah.
how they were still able to come together and that connection with each other helped them really still seem happy, even in the midst of a like a really
Exactly.
desperate situation. And so,
Mhm.
if you're listening, y'all know I give you one thing to take away. So, this is what it's going to be from our conversation with Ian. Do what makes you come alive. So, if that is taking a picture, go take that picture. If it's spending time with your loved ones, take that time to spend time with your loved ones. If it is traveling, pack that suitcase, and then you might be
Mhm.
like Ian. 300 days out of the year traveled later, you may just want to hang out at home for a minute. Whatever it is that makes you come alive, do that because the world needs more people that come alive.
Mhm.
Till next time.
Exactly.
That's all for today on Inspiring Possible. If you found a little inspiration today, please go on over to iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen to leave us a comment and rate us. Also, make sure and link up with me at inspiringpossible.com to get the free Dream It, Write It, Do It workbook. And don't forget to follow us on social media and share this with anyone who needs to be inspired. Remember, if you can believe it, it's possible.